fund us as Parliament. Regarding the first question on compensation, when we have a major blackout which impacts on the whole country, the point would be to establish the cause and be able to really apportion the blame. Why you had me reading up to the millisecond when the event occurred is to find out whether did the private investor power plant in Lake Turkana go out first and cause the problem, or was the problem caused by the Juja 220, which came in 100 milliseconds later? So that work is going on, but again, honorable members, when we have a blackout, it is so significant in terms of losses for the country. And like I said, when we have a company like Kenya Power where we are trying to restructure its balance sheet to be able, Kenya Power backstops all the IPPs in terms of the partial risk guarantees that supports power generation for Kenya. And unlike the banks, if one bank goes down, the other banks would be there. So we really need to take care of KPLC, even as we go today to from one market player to an open market where we will be allowing generators to generate power and wheel it to market or to load centers using the wheeling policy, which is shortly being gazetted for purposes of allowing multiple players in the industry. Because when I talked about a market which is unbundled, you should be able to generate your own power in a power plant and get KETRACO to wheel that power to market for you and sell that power to industry, wherever you want to sell in the country. And that then removes the Kenya Power being required to reticulate or transmit and reticulate. So the unbundling is a significant aspect of what we've done in supporting opening up the market, so that we then move from a one market buyer where Kenya Power buys all the energy and distributes to an open market where anybody can generate, use KETRACO to wheel the power to market and sell that power to industry, wherever the industry is. A lot of work is still going on in this space of compensation, and how much can we compensate when there is something like a national disaster or a major accident. But as regarding challenges where a cabling problem or a transformer caused a problem and Kenya Power is culpable, then that doesn't present a problem in compensation, and we do that from time to time. But when we have a national challenge, like when the whole network goes out because of something that is almost close to a national disaster, it becomes a challenge to say who should compensate, because we would certainly be closing down a company that we need to support the rest of the economy. We need to pay attention to that compensation space, but compensation do happen in where the faults are very specific and pertaining to what could have been avoidable, to the extent that Kenya Power would then be able to compensate the affected families or the affected businesses to that extent. So we need to look at how do we then compensate when it is a national challenge, which, if costed, even the entire company could basically go under and therefore cause a problem for the entire country. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Honorable CS. I will now allow members to ask the supplementary questions, and I'll start with Senator Mohamed Faki.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika. Swali langu ni kuhusiana na kupotea kwa umeme katika kaunti ya Mombasa, hususan wakati wa mwezi mtukufu wa Ramadhani. Mheshimiwa Spika, imekuwa sasa ni jambo la kawaida umeme kupotea mara kwa mara katika kaunti ya Mombasa na maeneo ya karibu, hususan wakati huo ambao tunafanya ibada za usiku wakati wa mwezi mtukufu Ramadhani. Wengi wanashindwa kuhudhuria ibada hizo kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa umeme, na vile vile pia ni kiusalama. Si rahisi mtu kutoka nyumbani ikiwa hakuna mataa barabarani ambayo yamezimika kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa umeme. Je, waziri ana mipango gani ya kuhakikisha kwamba kwa hizi siku 14 zilizobaki za mwezi mtukufu wa Ramadhani tutakuwa na umeme, sio Mombasa peke yake, Kenya nzima ili Waislamu waweze kumwomba Mungu wao bila ya matatizo yoyote. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Honorable CS.
Asante Senator Faki. Mombasa County ni county moja ambayo umeme inayotumika hapo utokana sana na generation wa thermal. That is where we have most of the thermal power plants. The other generation ile tunaitumia sana Mombasa ni ile inatoka hapo Malindi, Weru hapo nyuma kidogo. We've got a solar power plant inamilikiwa na kampani moja inaitwa Cloblek as an IPP and feeds 50 megawatts to the grid. Pia Mombasa ile moto mingi inapatikana Mombasa ni inatoka Olkaria, pengine the Cascade, ile line ya zamani ya Kamburu inayoenda Mombasa, but majorly geothermal kutoka Olkaria. Tushajenga hiyo line 400 kV, lakini currently we are operating at 220 kV, na hapo Mariakani kuna station kubwa tutafungua hivi karibu, pengine wiki ama mwezi moja mbili hivi. 1 month sio July tutafungua hiyo station ya Mariakani. The challenge in Mombasa, honorable members, is the fact that most generation is happening out of Mombasa, and we are transporting power to Mombasa. And the only heavy generation, particularly coming out of Malindi, ni ile ya jua. Na unajua jua ikipotea kidogo inaanguka, ikirudi inaamuka. But what we are doing to the challenges of intermittence, we are trying to stabilize that power ili kwamba tuhakikishe kwamba Mombasa is well served. Mombasa is well served.
Senator Abdul Haji, what's your point of order?
Thank you bwana. Asante sana bwana Speaker. Waziri kidogo ananichanganya, anaongea Kiswahili mara anabadilisha wa Kizungu, so inakuwa ngumu kufuata maneno yake. Siachague moja akae kwa lugha moja, kwa line moja tafadhali. Asante Speaker.
Honorable CS, Senator Haji is concerned, and I believe
nitachagua Kiswahili lakini wacha niseme kwanza kwa Kiingereza. So, honorable members, like I said, the challenge in Mombasa is the fact that most of the generation happens out of the region. We transport the power to Mombasa. What happens in Malindi, or the generation out of Weru in Malindi, the solar power plant, you know, most of the renewable plants like wind and solar are associated with intermittence. Intermittence is to say when there is wind, and wind is very good at night, you do very good generation. And when there is no wind, you have to have a replacement to take over and supply the energy, similar to solar. And whereas we support Mombasa majorly with diesel generation, we have built a line, 400 kV line, between Olkaria through to Isinya, Mariakani, and that will service Mombasa adequately with almost 100% renewable energy. Mariakani is being commissioned in July. And because I'm here with my team, Honorable Faki, or honorable members, we've had the challenge during the month of Ramadan. We'll possibly want to do more of what we are doing in Narok Bomet to ensure that there is no overload or constraint in the transmission systems, which occasionally there is, because we are also building a line between Malindi, Weru, Kilifi. The funding is available together with the Narok Bomet from Korea, South Korea, and Africa Development Bank. In fact, we have already gone to tender on the one for Narok Bomet. With that funding, there is so much happening in Mombasa. We recognize Mombasa as an important city, not only during such holy months of Ramadan, but as the gateway, water gateway, not only to Kenya, but to the East Africa region. From the earlier meeting where we today gave the National Treasury a check of 5 billion on account of the profits made by Kenya Pipeline, we were talking to how do we service the region better using our gateway and play that competitive advantage so that that advantage does not go to our neighbors down Dar es Salaam and so on and so forth. So, Honorable Faki, we are paying a lot of attention to Mombasa, the kind of investment coming to the region in transmission, power generation, looking at Dongo Kundu, where we are going to take a T-line, which is, there's already funding from JICA to Dongo Kundu, and the kind of infrastructural support, not just because of Mombasa, but to make Mombasa service the whole of East Coast of Africa, is going to be significant. And so we just beg for your support as we walk the journey together to address these challenges, which may not be quite finished during the month of Ramadan. But I want to really beg on my colleagues to ensure that what we talk about in terms of managing the grid, so that we don't have those small outages, given the kind of temperatures and the lifestyle where every household needs air conditioning, and the discomfort during the month of Ramadan is addressed. Thank you.
Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohammed.
Honorable Speaker, I wish to ask the CS. First and foremost, I want to thank the CS for the first time Wajir is actually, for the month of Ramadan, is getting power supply. Thank you for that. Having said that, Honorable CS, the municipality of Wajir Township actually is expanding, and the machines are getting very old, and it's emitting a lot of heavy emissions and fumes of. And that is causing a lot of pollution. So I don't know what measures can be put in place, because that machine now, the station now is actually surrounded by settlements, and the pollution is just too high. I want you to at least do something if it can be done. To Honorable Speaker, Senate CS, there was a plan for 5 megawatts solar for Wajir. I don't know where that plan has gone. We are anxiously waiting for it. I want to know the situation. And what plan do you have for Wajir? Now that I can hear my colleague here, he's almost getting benefited from the wind power. So I think you should also divert this wind power to Wajir, because it's actually even shorter than taking it back to things like Suswa and all this and Amor Navasha. So what is the plan for Wajir actually? So to be at the part of the national grid. Otherwise, as it is, the county is growing. We are already experiencing, upcoming of cottages.
Abbas, you've asked your question. Honorable CS, if you could respond.
Thank you, Senator Abbas, and honorable members. As regarding plans we have for Wajir being majorly supported through the COSAP or Kenya Off-Grid solar system, we've got funding from, there is a retiring OECD funding from Poland, which we are pitching for. We've signed an MOU for that fund of $200 million to come to Kenya to support in the development of areas like Wajir. And I think we are ready as Kenya, and we've submitted that document to the other side. I think we should be signing before end of April to draw that funding. A lot of that funding will support the off-grid systems, but more importantly, members, we are looking at how to connect Garissa on-grid to Wajir. There's also a program of hybridization where Wajir is currently served fully or 100% by thermal generation, diesel generator. What we are doing is putting in a solar plant which can run during the day, and if there was intermittence, then the batteries will be there to support, and the diesel engine can only come on if the solar is challenged when the batteries are not running enough. We did a similar project we are doing similar projects in 7 counties. One which we have commissioned, and the president participated in the commissioning, is Wasini in Lunga, where we have the solar plant, and if the solar is not there, the batteries can run for 3 days, and if the batteries went down, only then the diesel engine comes on. So with those kind of solution, we are evaluating even for counties like Turkana, how we can move, whether we should move on grid to Turkana from Lokcha to Turkana, or do we do an off grid, which is fairly solid, and where a solar plant or a wind plant can run, and if, because of intermittence, the battery system can support for 3 days, and otherwise a diesel generator can come. This is in line with the Kenya commitment to 2030, 100% green energy, and therefore, when we talk at 2024 today to 2030 that we need to switch off all those diesel engines, we should be seeing some of the pronouncements I'm making, honorable members, coming into fruition in 26, 27, 28. So we'll continue to work together, but this hybrid system, solar system, that should really run all the time, supported by batteries, and we only fall back to diesel, will actually remove some of those intermittents that we even see today. Because with battery being a good form of storage of power, we should be able to. But again, Honorable Chute, Honorable Abbas, the way you have been to my office a few times, we can look at the details of these programs for those off-grid areas and what we are doing together to support our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable CS. Senator Ogola Beatrice.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my question is on a statement that I made last year in May to the ministry, but relevant to the question today on faulty transformers. In my question, Honorable Speaker, I'd asked that the ministry lists a number of faulty transformers in Homa Bay County and provide timelines within which the transformers would be replaced. And precisely, Honorable Speaker, the response came in time, the same month from the ministry, which I appreciate so much. And in the response, Honorable Speaker, the CS had given a list of transformers, 84 in number, that were faulty, and went ahead to give 2 lists. One list has 21 transformers that would be replaced by REREC by the 31st of July 2023, and another list was given of 63 faulty transformers that would be replaced by KPLC by the 31st of July 2023. Now my question to the CS is the CS aware that the commitment that was made by the ministry to my response has not been honored, and I would like to know why and when that would be honored. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable CS, could you respond to the question?
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Beatrice, for that. Let me allow me, Chair, because this is a very detailed question with 21 transformers, 63 with KPLC, and KPLC is here with me through the CEO, Dr. Siror. I think the challenge in Homa Bay, sometimes when we say the challenge in Bomet, is the transit to Homa Bay, because most of the power that comes to that region comes through Bomet, Kisii, through Kigati, Homa Bay, Awendo. And it's not only a transformer challenge that we are facing in that region. it is compounded by the transmission constraint, and therefore with the power outage, the transformer challenge, the load shedding that I talked about earlier on impacts in that area heavily. So, Chair, I want to beg to be allowed with the KPLC CEO who is sitting here. REREC gave an apology. The lady, Dr. Rose Mukalama, the CEO for REREC, was supposed to be here with us, but she's attending to something outside Nairobi today, to address this 21 and 63. And like I said, we are in a procurement cycle of so many transformers. If KPLC was to stand and respond on my behalf, they will say as soon as these transformers are delivered, we'll address a number of transformers, not only in Homa Bay, but in the country in terms of replacement. But we also really need some public awareness and support in terms of the abuse that goes to the transformers. We can bring in a new transformer today, but as we take power to the rural areas, and because we have our TTIs and we have trained our people, they have learned to sometimes illegally do illegal connections, which are not dimensioned, and they overdraw power from the transformer. You can burn the coil and therefore lose a transformer. A transformer today runs for anything up to 1 million shillings, 2 million shillings, depending on the kilowatt rating of that transformer. So the important thing is to ensure that also that customers connected to the transformer are legitimately connected and they are paying their bills so that they don't take shortcuts and burn a transformer that we could blame on quality of the transformer, and yet it is our culture of wanting to use free power for that purpose. But allow us, Speaker Beatrice, to respond substantively, possibly because of specific question impacting on Homa Bay, to deal with you directly to address what we promised. And like I said, there's a transformer procurement cycle which is just closed. How much can KPLC pick up and correct? I'm sure of the 63, some have been addressed. But any that has not been addressed, not only for Homa Bay, but for the whole country, we allow us to address that, but to respond more specifically to the question of the 21 transformers and REREC and 63 for KPLC. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable CS. Senator Abdul Haji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me first take this opportunity to thank the Minister for appearing today and answering the questions of the members, which in reality are questions from the public. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would ideally be asking the Minister in relation to the frequent power outage in Garissa, but I will not ask him that question because it's already been asked by the Senator from Mombasa and Wajir, and it's been addressed. So I would not want him to repeat. But Mr. Speaker, my question was touching on the issue of transformers. The Waziri has explained to us here that they're expecting, they've made some procurement, and for a long period of time in Kenya, we've been told that the problem with Kenya Power and Lighting is usually transformers. So my question, Bwana Waziri, I just want to inquire on whether or not if we have any local manufacturers for transformers in Kenya, and if we have local manufacturers, is the ministry and Kenya
Lesuk to Lesos to pull out that power and generate out of that area. We are working at Paka to open up that area. We've drilled the first well. It is heating up. So there's so much activity in the geothermal development to basically support us, because geothermal is a very good baseload in terms of generating all the time and availability. We gave concessions, like the majority leader did mention, to some of the private developers. And concession comes with work programs. We are reviewing those work programs which have been attached to the concessions which were given to those private sector players. And if they are not meeting the work programs as signed in the concession, we should be able to have those fields, those geothermal fields, revert back to government. But because we don't have a policy. The policy today, if you go to a number of warehouses in industrial area, they are not warehouses. We are having semi-knockdown kits. We are assembling, we are testing our meters, our digital meters in industrial area. And CEO Kenya Power can confirm that, RERE can confirm that. And as we roll out our capacity and students from the Polytechnic, the TVETs, I can assure this House that there'll really be opportunities in these areas of technology to even go into manufacturing the more detailed components as opposed to just assembling. So, honorable members, we are already on it. There's a policy framework in Kenya Power that meters ought to be local. Transformers should be local. And when there is no room almost for competition against a local manufacturer today. So we are working on that. I want to confirm that it would be an exercise in futility if our TVETs are churning out our youths and we are importing some of these things that can be locally manufactured, locally assembled in our country. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Waziri. Jackson Mandago.
The IPPs, let me touch on the IPPs which are on the Least Cost Power Development for delivery of power in 2026. Senator Wamatangi chairs the Energy Committee. We'll possibly invite you in the next 1-2 weeks in a session that we are planning to sit down with all the IPPs to confirm whether they can sign on the cost of delivery, unit cost of per kilowatt that is acceptable to us. The delivery, the COD, what we call the date of commissioning or commercial operation date of 2026, because the way we run the LCPD, Least Cost Power Development Plan members, is we match demand with supply. We don't generate what we don't need. And then therefore, it's a chicken and the egg question. Do you develop power when there is no demand, or do you generate demand and then you develop power? In which case, the industry may not be willing to wait for you to spend 3 years to build a power plant if they are ready to invest. So it sometimes can be an impediment to developing industry. So what we'll be doing, my chair, in a short while, is calling all the IPPs who have been scheduled to deliver in 2024, 25, 26, and 27. That is the tariff period that has been provided by EPRA in the current tariffs that are levied by Kenya Power, to confirm that they will all fulfill their CODs. And if they can't meet their CODs, there are other generators outside 26 or 27 who are willing to come in and be able to support us to ensure that the demand is not suppressed because we are not able to supply the energy or the power in good time. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you, Waziri. Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to take the CS back on the matter of blackout. What was the reason that there was blackout in the better part of Monday in Nairobi, to the extent to the operations of Nairobi Funeral Home and Mbagathi Hospital, Honorable Speaker, didn't have power? And what are the plans, Honorable CS, to ensure that level 4 and level 5 facilities, health facilities, that the government intends to place equipment to support the rollout of BHC in ensuring that they have 3-phase power? A case example is West Pokot level 5 hospital that doesn't have 3-phase, and they have equipment that have been installed for the last 7 years without being utilized because of lack of power. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Today is Wednesday. I think Monday is the day when some of us did not get home because everywhere was flooded because of the heavy rains. And we had a circuit breaker going off in our Nairobi West substation, which was restored very quickly and power resumed. When there were the kind of floodings which even blocked expressway, honorable members. It is something that, but again, like I've said before, we are paying attention to ensure that we reduce or we eradicate the blackouts completely, which are caused by events which are avoidable. And then we are going to pay attention to that. As regarding our public institutions which are not on power or not on three-phase, we've made a commitment that there's absolutely no reason why we are 75%, 77% access on power. That basically means power is within reach. And yet, public institutions, schools, high schools, primary schools, dispensaries and hospitals are not on power. So what we've done in the budget that we currently are rolling out and working with members of parliament, and a number of you have come with the members of parliament for your areas to my office as a county group, is to prioritize all the public institutions and ensure that they are on power. Where there is need for three-phase, there's got to be and three-phase within access. In terms of the grid, we need to provide that power, and we have that commitment. There's absolutely, you know, primary schools are center of habitation. Schools are not in isolated areas, and therefore, when we provide a transformer to serve a school, the communities around the schools through maximization are serviced. And if we do the adjacent school, the pockets.
And if they get, and you remember the president had given direction that if they get any Kenyan who was regularly or irregularly, let me not say illegally, were connected to power, it was supposed to be regularized. But when you go to Nandi County, some of your officers go ahead, especially in Aldai, to just go and remove, even including the post of the Kenya Power and Lighting, and also removing meters instead of regularizing. What are you doing to arrest such situation? And Waziri, we wish you well as you continue doing wonders in the Ministry of Energy. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From onset, I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary and the Permanent Secretary for a good job they are doing. Mr. Speaker, I am aware that transformers are of different capacities. And knowing that the CS is an expert in the areas of technology, I just wanted to know in his office whether he has a dashboard and he can tell how many transformers we have in Laikipia, their capacity, and how many people are supplied by those transformers. I'm saying that because you go to some areas, Mr. Speaker, you find there are transformers, but they are only supplying 2 people. You go to other areas, you find a transformer that is even overloaded. So I wanted to know whether the minister, and I know he's an expert in the area of technology, whether from his office he can tell how many transformers we have in Laikipia and how many people are supplied by each transformer. So in totality, he can tell how many people are supplied in Laikipia and how many transformers we would want so that we can have 100% coverage of people of Laikipia by power. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
CS, you can answer, and please keep the answers short so that we can take a few more questions before 1 o'clock.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, members. Honorable Oburu, the answer is yes. We're going to pay attention to this rice scheme in your county towards Busia. Food security is paramount. I think that is the very reason why when the fiscal, what do you call the country was facing the dollar liquidity challenge because of the tightened monetary policy, Fed running the U.S. interest investments in the U.S. at almost 5.5%. We didn't have dollars, and it is unfair, unfortunate that we have to use our dollars to import food, things we can easily grow. So I've just consulted with Kenya Power Lighting, the design for the scheme to support that rice scheme is finished. It's more of upgrading to 3-phase. The same question goes to the industrial park. The CEO is here with me. We're going to follow up and make sure that because we are not building a new network, even if the harvest is now, we can be able to support the people in that rice scheme within the season, because upgrading is not a matter of months. It can be done in a few days. So we look at the funding aspect to be able to do that upgrade. The only challenge that we face is, honorable member, sometimes we handle KPLC as a social company. You know, we've got 49.9% investment listed in the stock market, Nairobi Securities Exchange. And therefore, when Kenya Power goes to the ground and give an invoice or a bill for a transformer, we should, if we are able to support them with payments, they should be able to connect immediately. But in terms of extending the network to the area, that is our responsibility, because it's commercial. They'll get revenue by pulling the network to where the business is so that they can sell more power. So, Mheshimiwa Oburu, we will follow up that. I'm here with Dr. Siror, and possibly even give you an individual call to make sure that that has been done. Senator Cherargei, really, this transformer challenge is a big challenge for us, and we need a lot of support. During the days when there were no meters and schemes have been built by REREC and there's been no meter, there was no meter because of the challenge of the legal issues of meter procurements, which the country faces sometimes. Clients sometimes learn to, or they were connected irregularly to consume power without a meter. I'm sure you are aware that sometimes we've tried to connect meters and our officers have not been allowed to go in to connect meters, because if you can consume it for free, why do you want to allow somebody to come and put in a meter? And so sometimes it forces us to disconnect power at the transformer to allow, to encourage them to allow us to go in and address, because otherwise we close down Kenya Power if they have to pay the generators and yet they have not collected the revenue. So that's one challenge we've had. It is more prevalent in some counties. I don't want to name which ones. We even have situations where illegal networks have been built and they pose risk. Poles which you find have fallen out in a particular area it's not a network of Kenya Power. And that's why you see us coming and cutting down a pole. You would ask yourself, is Kenya Power out of their mind to be pulling down a pole? Some of those poles are not our poles, and it portends security challenge to the people when people have gone out of the way completely and even put in a small network connected to a transformer which is being overloaded because it's an irregular network. It's an illegitimate illegal network, and therefore overloaded transformer cause a problem to the legitimate customers who are properly connected, and therefore we really want to appeal for the political leadership to work with us in supporting Kenya Power to also get revenue so that we can extend the network to some of the areas like the rice field that Honorable Oburu has talked to. The dashboard, but again, we'll follow up Honorable Cherargei. We have had Kapcherop, Kapwareng, and Terik. We will follow up and pay attention to those areas you mentioned. And if there are others that you want us to follow up on, we'll be happy to do that. With respect to Mheshimiwa Kenywa, Senator, we have a dashboard. But you can imagine if it was in the Cabinet Secretary's office, the dashboard for Kenya Power, the dashboard for KenGen, the dashboard. We have serious dashboards. I would like to encourage Honorable Matangi to invite some of the honorable members to come to our National Control Center. We have a dashboard and we see the whole country in one room. And so we follow up what's happening all the time. And when we see a bit of an overload, we are able to pull down to ensure that the network doesn't go down because of an overload. What we call managing that reactive situation where there's an overload. And therefore, with respect to, then why do we have transformers which are connecting one person? And the point is, yes, we have a transformer for 25 kVA, 50 kVA, and when customers apply for power, we do provide, depending on the funding scheme, a transformer, not necessarily which would serve one person, but a transformer that can serve that local community and do maximization. We currently are doing a very heavy maximization program with some funding from EIB, European Investment Bank, EU, European Union, and Africa. Is that Africa Development Bank or the French Bank? AFD. And we have another AFD3. The first one is 22 billion. We have another 15 billion on OFD3, which is currently being rolled out, and a lot of them are on maximization. So where you see 1 person, 2 person, 10 persons being connected, if that transformer can service 70 people, 80 people, 100 persons, we have done surveys. Some of the plants have been finished, and we are working very closely with the members of parliament to maximize. A lot of this money I've just spoken to are going to maximization, and therefore more utilization of that asset that currently is not sweating because it is serving a few people when it should be serving a larger number or maximized to that extent. In fact, the last mile is becoming more easy in the highly populated areas because we're just doing maximization. Of course, the last mile is more difficult where we have reached today as we service the more difficult areas where the land mass is huge, like Wajir, Isiolo, Marsabit, and so on and so forth. But we are committed on the last mile and maximization. In fact, Honorable Kenywa should come over to my office for a cup of tea, and we can look at how Laikipia is coming up. Asanteni, thank you so much.
Thank you, Waziri. I think we can squeeze 2 more questions. One from Sheikh Omar, Mariam, and I wanted to give the ladies, Gloria, I thought you had requested. Okay, and then we give Gloria also. Let's be fair to the ladies. And ask the questions very quickly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, for your kind. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if this question was asked by my colleague from Northern Kenya, but I want to hear from the CS. And during El Nino, Mandera, the road which connects to Mandera was washed away. Mr. Speaker, that showed that by then in El Nino, Mandera is on blackout for almost a month because of we cannot ferry fuel from here to Mandera because of El Nino. My question is to the CS, why are we still using generator? Secondly, why are we not benefiting national grid? Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the CS. We've seen a lot of deaths happening with the KPLC staff members who are on site, and then we've seen so many photos that are always circulated. I wanted to ask, is there an investigation that has been launched as to why there are suddenly so many, and what kind of compensation is given to those kind of employees? Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll use Standing Order 34-2A to extend because there's too much. Bonacius, you seem to be very popular today. Everybody wants to ask you a question. So we shall extend our time to by another 15 minutes so that we can get all the members to ask. Can we get CS? You can answer.
This is Mandera, Honorable Speaker, Honorable members. With respect to we really empathize with the situation that obtained in Mandera during the El Nino because there was breakdown of communication. There was no access. The fuel that would normally hold there for 30 days ran down to 5 days, to 0 days, and to complete outage. And that was a situation that taught us a lesson that in the more difficult areas, we need to hold more fuel for those diesel generators. But more importantly, you would have noticed, Senator, that on the road were fuel tankers trying to access and salvage the situation, but the road network, the whole communication breakdown was a challenge. We are working, Kenya Power is working with Ethiopia. We have an arrangement where, like in most of the border towns, if there is a grid from the Ethiopia side or when there is a grid from Kenya, we service the Uganda side or they service us. And so we are working with Ethiopia because there is a point in Ethiopia not very far up there from Mandera where we can get down the grid to Mandera town. And so rather than build the grid either from Wajir to Mandera or from, from Marsabit all the way across, we can actually get the service of. So in the last state visit by the Prime Minister for Ethiopia, we did discuss getting service from the Ethiopia side and being built on the Kenya side. So Kenya Power is working closely with Ethiopia to actualize that and put Mandera on the grid. If, like I said, we are able to put Marsabit on the grid on the extreme end of Kenya towards Leongalani, then you can see grid getting everywhere in Kenya, even the more difficult areas. So we'll pay attention to that. In fact, they were even talking about joint generation of power through some of those big rivers that go out of Kenya to Ethiopia to be able to forestall that challenge. But the immediate solution is to do cross-border connectivity for customer connections as opposed to buying bulk power so that we do get, we do that currently with Uganda around the border. We do in Namanga. We supply or they supply us in most of the borders. But more importantly, I think the solution is if we can then not do the grid because the grid is expensive, then you can imagine if we had a hybrid system which has got both solar and battery, we would be able to get the solar energy during the day, store them in the battery and use it at night. And when the generators are there and if there was no fuel.
Stima ambayo ilikuwa inawekwa sehemu ya Gichugu mahali kunaitwa Getemani na imekaa kwa muda mrefu. Kuna wananchi kama 700 hivi ambao wanafaa kufaidika. Vikingi vimewekwa. Ningeomba tu kama mnaweza iangalia iweze kufanyika kwa haraka kidogo ili tuone kama tutaweza kusaidia wakazi. Na mwisho kabisa ningetaka pia kuhimiza kama mnapanga mikakati ya kuweka nguvu ambazo zinatumia miale ya jua sola sana sana katika zile sehemu kulima inafanyika kama Tana River ambao wanatumia nguvu za stima kutumia ili kupiga maji katika mashamba ambayo yanalimwa pande ile, kwa sababu inaweza punguza gharama kwa wakulima ili waweze pia kupata pesa mfukoni kama venye serikali yetu hii imepanga kufanya. Asante sana Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me also take my time also to ask a question to the Honorable CS. Honorable CS, you understand that Kajiado County has quite a number of national grid lines, Kentraco, KenGL, GDC, Kipeto Energy, which has quite a number of institutions that are holding the national grid. I want to request that you tell this House the plans that the ministry has for Kajiado County, having in mind that we have less than 20-25% of the connectivity in Kajiado County, in almost 4 sub-counties, Kajiado South, Kajiado Central, Kajiado Western, Kajiado East. So I think it's good that you tell us the plans that you have for that county, because I think we are the lowest in the connectivity in the entire country, yet we have a number of national grids lines that are going through Kajiado County. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And let me thank the Minister for the good work he's doing to spread power across the nation. My question concerns about West Pokot, which is one of the counties that generates power that contributes to the lighting of the whole nation. But the unfortunate thing is that during the time of the governments of Moi and Kibaki, a lot of wards and many places and even schools are left behind and not lit, even though power is generated from West Pokot. What plans are there to light West Pokot, having in mind that it is one of the counties that is generating power that is lighting Kenya? Because up to now, even areas near Takwel are not lit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I thought there's a question I asked earlier about Kengen going into Loyangalani. If the CS can remember, I wanted that answer. If not, then I can explain.
CS, you can proceed.
Senator Kamau, Gishugu power, solar pumping for agriculture to support food security. I think we have some very interesting programs because of a lot of support on the last mile. And I was wondering if I risk talking to numbers because I have them on my computer. We might spend the better part of the day to an extent where we have good funding for last mile. Particularly, you will recall when we did the budget policy statement through the parliament and they put in some 14 billion. But apart from the GOK funding, we've got very good funding from the development partners. I'll need to check what is obtaining for Kishugu and the entire Kirinyaga county. It's right there. But Kajiado, Seki, we've got good money. We just need to sit down. We've got some 703 million for last mile. In West Pokot, I've checked, we've got 1.24 billion for that county with programs designed. And we've been spending time with the members of parliament to see how to roll out those networks, where designs have been done and finished. You will see a lot of work in the last mile program to really give power to our people. We have very specific programs under what I call EU, EIB, and AFD. AFD3 has got so much funding. What you are giving us through Exchequer release, a lot of funding. And if we go on that pace, I did mention the retirement of a Polish OECD funding, another 200 million that we are pitching to bring in for last mile. We will see connectivity, and because they are very specific to every county, what we could do is to seek to spend more time together as we spend with the members of the National Assembly to be able to see some of your programs and how they are going to impact on priority basis in the various areas where you provide leadership today. I'm just basically answering that generally because if we go to the numbers in every county and the programs, it actually requires, we do a 7 o'clock meeting every morning with county leadership, particularly the members of parliament, county by county, to look at their programs. And we do bring in Kenya Power, CEO. We do have Rose Mkalama from REREC and their technical staff, so that you can actually define your priorities so that we can work together to see how we can provide power. You know, power, unlike roads, is not very expensive because, and yet it impacts on the lives of those people very heavily because it goes to the home. And from a health perspective to economic transformation in terms of what power can do and the kind of support that we currently have, I would like to encourage members of Senate to seek to visit us so that we can see these programs and lay out the priorities together. With respect to Kengen, Senator Chute, can you help us to understand why you want KenGen to come to Leongalani? So that I can just contextualize. I possibly didn't understand the question properly.
Honorable Speaker, I think you didn't get the question. The question was, KenGen are starting a project in Lake Turkana, and that project is a wind project. They have already started public participation. I don't know if the CS is aware. If he's not aware, then I'm surprised.
So your question is if the minister is aware of public participation being done in Turkana?
Honorable Speaker, I think I will defer that question. I will visit his office to explain better because of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Waziri, I don't know if you want to mention anything on that.
I'll be very happy, Speaker and Honorable Chute, who is we do quite a cup of teas in my office together, to look at that program for KenGen. I do know KenGen is looking at wind concessioning or wind generation out of that county. We need to pay attention to exactly what's happening on the ground. There are a number of other companies, private IPPs, who are looking at those wind concession up in Bobisa, down. There's a lot of wind resource in your county. And let's spend time together so that I can understand. And to an extent that we come to the ground to do public participation, we ensure that we carry the leadership along. So let me beg the House to allow me to defer that answer and possibly spend more time with Senator Chute. Thank you.
Thank you, Waziri. At this time, I would like also to take this opportunity to thank you, Bwana Waziri, for coming here, for your patience and for your good answers and elaborate answers. And we want to wish you all the best in your endeavor to help light up this country and to reduce power outages. Waziri, you're free to take your leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The questions that have not been asked to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Gender shall be deferred. Honorable Senators. Honorable Senators, having concluded the business for which I extended sitting hours pursuant to Standing Order 34-2A, the Senate stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 27th March 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
Tonight, the country stares at a double constitutional crisis over the race to save 26 constituencies on the brink of being scrapped.
All the delays in the appointment of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, or IEBC, has led to a lapse of the 12 years within which the constituencies were to be evaluated to establish whether or not they meet the population quota, failure to which they are to be disbanded. Ayub Abdikadir reports on the pathway replete with uncertainties, with the Parliament on recess, leaving crucial bills, including one meant to reconstitute the IEBC, still pending.
With the timelines prescribed by the Constitution for a review of boundaries nearing a lapse in 6 days' time, the country stares at constitutional crisis, compounded further by the lack of a properly functional electoral body. 26 constituencies whose existence were okayed for 12 years to build on their population or be disbanded now facing imminent scrapping. The targeted constituencies are Othaya, Ndaragwa, Budalangi, Vihiga, Voi, Wundanyi, Mwatate, Galole, Bura, Isiolo South, Samburu East, Laisamis, North Hor, Saku, Kilome, Mukorwaini, Mbere North and Madhioya. Others are Kangema, Marakwet East, Keio North, Tetu, Mogoteo, Lamu East, Lamu West, and Mvita constituencies. The poll body last did a review of the boundaries in March 2012, with the recruitment of commissioners of the IEBC dependent on the implementation of the National Dialogue Committee report, a political process, with the Elections Amendment Bill 2023 before Parliament. This could delay the appointment of the commissioners and additionally lead to a constitutional crisis. The Constitution requires the polls agency to review names and boundaries of electoral areas at intervals of not less than 8 years and not more than 12 years. The review is necessitated by the periodic population growth and is aimed at ensuring equitable distribution of resources, ranging development funds allocated through the constituency's development fund kitty.
The only way that these boundaries can be changed is as is provided for in the Constitution, and no other way, no other institution, and no other process can change or purport to change the boundaries as are right now. The only way that change can be effected, and optimally so, is as is provided for in the Constitution through the process and institutions that the Constitution provides. So any other way would be unconstitutional, null and void right from the beginning.
The Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2023, one of the 9 bills jointly sponsored by Kimani Ichung'wah and Opiyo Wandayi, seeks to amend the law to ensure that the constituencies are protected for another minimum of 8 years and a maximum of 12 years, allowing them to gradually grow their population and meet the threshold. It says the Constitution only safeguarded 26 constituencies from the initial review, which took place in March 2012, with the second review due in 2024, 12 years after the first. Regarding the issue, the National Dialogue Committee in its report said, where there are justifiable reasons for the extension of the period for the review, then Parliament may extend the period provided under the Constitution by a resolution passed by the National Assembly, with the support of a majority of members of the Assembly and the Senate, and with the support of the majority of all county delegations.
A proper boundaries delimitation process is conducted as provided for in the Constitution. So they will not collapse or cease to be in existence simply because of the fact of us not, or the country not being able to conduct the boundaries delimitation as provided for in the Constitution. So they remain as they are until we conduct a proper boundaries delimitation as provided for in the Constitution.
In February, High Court Judge Mugure Thande ruled that the recruitment of IEBC commissioners should proceed forthwith, directing the Nelson Makanda team to recruit the commissioners, including the chair. The judge, observing that the political process at the Bomas of Kenya then does not override the Constitution. However, The political class appears stuck on the National Dialogue Committee report, and so the country remains in limbo until the bills emanating from the recommendations are enacted by Parliament. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
Opposition leader Bassirou Diomaye Faye has won Senegal's presidential election, according to provisional results released on Monday. That confirms what many of Faye's supporters had already been celebrating, as results began trickling in on Sunday evening. On Monday, the Electoral Commission announced Faye had secured 53.68% of the vote, based on tallies from 90% of polling stations, compared to 36.2% for the ruling Benno Bokk Yakaar coalition's candidate, Amadou Ba.
Mes félicitations au président Diomaye Faye.
Ba had earlier conceded defeat. He'd been backed by incumbent President Macky Sall, who is stepping down amid a drop in popularity after 2 terms marred by economic hardship and violent anti-government protests. It's hoped that the vote will bring stability and an economic boost after 3 years of the unprecedented political turmoil. As for Faye, he owes much of his success to the backing of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, who was barred from running due to a defamation conviction. The two had campaigned together under the slogan Diomaye is Sonko, and have promised to tackle corruption and prioritize national economic interests. They are particularly popular among young voters in a country where more than 60% of people are under 25 and struggle to find jobs. Sonko and Faye's campaign was also buoyed by police crackdowns on protests, the government's failure to cushion rising living costs, and the authorities' failed attempt to postpone the election by 10 months. Senegal's international bonds rose on reports that Faye was close to being declared a winner, reversing sharp falls from earlier in the day. However, investors are also wary about a change in leadership to an anti-establishment government. Sonko and Faye have said they will introduce a new currency and renegotiate mining and energy contracts in a country that is set to start producing oil and gas later this year.